The vast lands of modern-day Russia were once home to a variety of Slavic tribes. Known as the East Slavs, these communities were primarily involved in farming and trade. They inhabited a region defined by major rivers like the Volga, Dnieper and Don. These waterways served as vital trade routes, connecting the Slavs to the Byzantine Empire in the south and the Viking world in the north. Known as Varangians in the east, Vikings were skilled seafarers and warriors. They sailed from Scandinavia along the rivers of Eastern Europe, seeking trade and plunder. According to traditional accounts, in the mid-9th century, a Viking chieftain named Rurik was invited to rule in Novgorod. This event, dated to 862 AD, is traditionally considered the foundation of the Russian state. Drawn to the riches flowing through the Dnieper trade route, Rurik's successors expanded their influence southward. This set the stage for the emergence of a new and powerful force in Eastern Europe. This new power would become known as the Rus, from which the name Russia itself is derived. The arrival of the Vikings and the establishment of the Rus state marked a turning point in the history of Eastern Europe. In the early history of the Rus, two cities played pivotal roles: Staraya Ladoga and Novgorod. These cities were crucial in shaping Rus's history and the formation of its early state structure. Situated near Lake Ladoga, Staraya Ladoga was one of the earliest Viking settlements in the region. This settlement served as a vital base for Viking expansion into Eastern Europe and the establishment of trade networks. It was a vital trading hub, connecting the Baltic Sea to the Volga trade route. These trade routes weren't just economic, but also centers of cultural exchange. Further south, Novgorod emerged as a major political and commercial center. Novgorod became the heart of not just trade, but also the early Rus political structure. Known as Great Novgorod, the city boasted a vibrant merchant class and a degree of self-governance that set it apart from other early Rus settlements. This self-governance allowed Novgorod to flourish as an independent city-state. In 882, Prince Oleg, Rurik's successor, led the Rus south and captured the city of Kiev. This conquest was a significant step in the expansion of Rus's territory under Oleg's leadership. Strategically located on the Dnieper River, Kiev held immense economic and political importance. Kiev stood at the crossroads of trade routes in Eastern Europe. By conquering Kiev and establishing his rule, Oleg united the northern and southern lands of the East Slavs under his authority. This unification laid the foundation of the Rus state. Thus, he laid the foundation for a unified Rus state. This new state structure would play a significant role in the future political and cultural development of Russia. Oleg's conquest of Kiev was a turning point in the history of the Rus. This event changed the course of Rus's history and marked the beginning of a new era. It shifted the center of power southward and established a dynasty that would rule for centuries. This dynasty became a cornerstone of Russia's political structure. The unification of the northern and southern lands under Oleg's rule created a powerful entity that would play a significant role in the political and cultural landscape of Eastern Europe. This unification laid the groundwork for Russia's future power and influence. Prince Vladimir the Great, a descendant of Oleg, further solidified the power and prestige of the Rus. Vladimir wasn't just a ruler, but a leader who shaped the future of his people. Facing pressure from neighboring empires, Vladimir sought a religion that would unify his diverse and religiously varied people. This search marked a turning point that would change the destiny of Russia. In 988, Vladimir made the momentous decision to adopt Christianity as the official religion of the Rus. This decision wasn't just a religious conversion, but a political and cultural revolution. He chose Orthodox Christianity as practiced by the Byzantine Empire. This choice strengthened Russia's ties with Byzantium and initiated a new era of cultural exchange. This choice had profound and lasting consequences for the cultural and political development of the Rus. Orthodox Christianity became an integral part of Russia's identity. The adoption of orthodoxy linked the Rus to the Byzantine Empire, both religiously and culturally. This connection left a deep mark on Russia's art, architecture, and literature. It led to the assimilation of Byzantine art, architecture, literature, and legal codes. This enriched Russia's own cultural heritage and laid the foundation for a new civilization. Churches and monasteries were built, and literacy and education were encouraged. This accelerated the intellectual and cultural development of Russia's society. The Cyrillic alphabet, developed by Byzantine missionaries, was adopted for the Slavic language, laying the groundwork for a distinct Russian literary tradition. This alphabet played a vital role in the development of Russian literature and written culture. The conversion to Christianity also had significant political implications. It helped to consolidate the authority of the Rus rulers and provided them with a new source of legitimacy. It provided the Rus rulers with a new source of legitimacy and helped to consolidate their authority. This contributed to the strengthening of the Rus state and the consolidation of central authority. With its hierarchical structure, the church became an integral part of the Rus state. The church became not just a religious institution, but also a center of political and social power. However, the conversion to Christianity did not erase pagan beliefs and practices overnight. Pagan traditions continued to exist in the daily lives and cultural practices of the people. They persisted for centuries, often blending with Christian traditions. This continued to be a part of Russia's rich and diverse cultural heritage. Chapter 4: The Mongol Yoke, a century of subjugation. The rise of the Mongol Empire in the 13th century had a devastating impact on the Rus. The Mongols' military prowess and strategic brilliance allowed them to conquer much of Eurasia. Led by the legendary Genghis Khan and his successors, the Mongols swept across Eurasia, conquering vast territories and leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. Mongol armies were renowned for their speed and ruthlessness. In 1237, a Mongol army under the command of Batu Khan, a grandson of Genghis Khan, invaded the lands of the Rus. This invasion is considered one of the most devastating events in the history of Russia. The Mongol invasion was swift and brutal. The Mongol cavalry, using surprise and rapid movement to their advantage, overwhelmed their enemies. Major cities, including Kiev, were sacked and burned. The destruction of these cities devastated the economic and cultural centers of the Rus. Weakened by internal conflicts, the Rus' princes were unable to mount a united defense. This disunity played into the hands of the Mongols. By 1240, the Mongols had subjugated most of the Rus lands, incorporating them into their vast empire known as the Golden Horde. This empire controlled a vast swathe of Eurasia. The Mongol invasion had a devastating impact on the Rus. Cities were destroyed, populations were decimated, and the economic structure was shattered. Cities were destroyed, and their populations were decimated. This destruction made it difficult for the Rus to recover and rebuild. The Mongols imposed a heavy tribute on the conquered population, stifling economic development. This tribute impoverished the Rus' people. The political structure of the Rus was also transformed. The Mongols altered the existing system of governance, establishing their own control. The Mongols replaced the existing princely rule with a system of indirect rule. This system solidified Mongol authority. They issued yarliks, or decrees, to the Rus' princes, allowing them to rule as their vassals. These yarliks ensured the princes' loyalty to the Mongol overlords. This system, while preserving a semblance of local autonomy, ensured Mongol dominance and fostered rivalries among the Rus' princes. This rivalry hindered the unification of the Rus. The Mongol invasion had a profound and lasting impact, shaping the political, social, and cultural development of Russian history for centuries to come. This impact defined the future trajectory of Russia. Chapter 5: The Rise of Moscow, from Principality to Tsardom. In the aftermath of the Mongol invasion, a new power began to rise in the northeast, the Principality of Moscow. Initially an insignificant settlement, Moscow benefited from several factors that contributed to its rise. Its geographic location amidst forests and swamps provided natural protection from invaders. The The princes of Moscow skillfully employed diplomacy and strategic alliances with the Mongols, gaining an advantage over their rivals. They steadily expanded their territory, often at the expense of their neighbouring principalities. In the early 14th century, Moscow became the seat of the head of the Russian Orthodox Church, further enhancing its prestige and influence. Under Ivan I, who reigned from 1325 to 1340, Moscow became the primary collector of tribute for the Mongol overlords. This gave the Moscow princes significant leverage over other Russian princes and filled their coffers. Ivan I also began the process of fortifying Moscow, constructing the Kremlin, a fortress that served as a symbol of the city's growing power. By the late 14th century, Moscow had emerged as the dominant power in the former Rus's lands, eclipsing its rivals and challenging Mongol dominance.